noticed it when he turned his head to copy the agenda, a faint purple ring under his right eye, and thin red scrapes along his forearm. He kept his sleeve tugged down and his gaze low. I adjusted the plan for the period and set a brief, independent task. Then I asked him, in a calm voice, to step with me to the hallway. No audience, no pressure. I told him what I had seen. I said I wouldn't ask him to explain in front of anyone. I also said I couldn't promise secrecy if his safety was at risk. He nodded once. His hands were cold. I asked if he felt safe to talk in the counselor's office. Another nod. We walked there together. Inside, I kept my questions simple. When did this happen? Does it hurt? Do you feel safe at home today? He answered softly, one piece at a time. The marks were not an accident. It had happened before. His father had been drinking. He stared at the floor while he spoke, as if the tiles could carry the rest. I listened, wrote an objective note of what he said and what I observed, and paused often to check how he felt. I asked permission to get the nurse for a quick look. He agreed. With the counselor present, we followed the school's steps: documentation, a call to the principal, and planning immediate supports. I told him he did the right thing by telling us. I brought him water. I made sure he knew where I would be after lunch if he needed me. I kept my voice steady and my sentences short. In my classroom later, the desks looked the same, but the day was not. I had a student who needed protection, and I would not let him face this alone. I walked him to the counselor's office at a steady pace. We sat with the door mostly closed. I kept the chair angled so he didn't feel cornered. The counselor, Ms. Nguyen, greeted him by name, offered water, and asked if he wanted the lights a bit dimmer. He nodded. I stayed beside him, not across from him. We used simple questions, one at a time. I spoke first so he wouldn't feel interrogated. I said what I had observed: the discoloration under the eye, the scrapes along his forearm, how he winced when he lifted his backpack. I asked if he felt any pain right now. He said there was soreness along the cheekbone and a sting on the arm. I asked if he was okay with the nurse taking a look. He agreed. In the nurse's office, I stood to the side. The nurse documented visible marks in neutral language and asked about dizziness, vision, or nausea. He denied those. She offered an ice pack and asked permission to take photos for the record. He paused. I told him the photos help us protect him and avoid repeating the same questions later. He agreed. The nurse took 2 quick photos with the school camera and logged them. Back in counseling, Ms. Nguyen explained what would happen next. We would notify the principal and our student support team. Because there were signs of possible abuse, we would file a report with Child Protective Services. I told him clearly, this is not punishment for anyone. It is protection for you. He exhaled but did not raise his eyes. I asked if there was a safe adult at home other than his father. He mentioned an aunt who lived 15 minutes away. He did not want his father called. We wrote down the aunt's name and number. I kept my notes factual: date, time, location, who was present, what he said verbatim, what I observed. No opinions, no conclusions. I recorded that he consented to the nurse's exam and to photos. Ms. Nguyen called the principal, Ms. Duarte, who arrived within minutes. She listened, asked 2 clarifying questions, and approved the CPS report immediately. She also arranged for the student to remain with counseling until pickup. No hall passes, no wandering the building. Discretion was the rule. I called my classroom and told a neighboring teacher I would be away for the period. I posted a short independent task and asked students to leave their completed work in the tray. When I returned to the office, Ms. Nguyen had CPS on the line. She gave the facts. I added my observations and confirmed the nurse's documentation. The agency opened an intake and asked for the aunt's contact. They said an investigator would coordinate with the school before the day ended. We planned the next steps: keep him in a calm space, offer lunch privately, check in every 30 minutes, limit staff to the same 2 adults for continuity. I asked him if he wanted to email any teachers about missing work to avoid extra stress. He said he could handle it later. I told him I would inform them that he was excused for today and that we would adjust deadlines. At lunch, I sat with him and Ms. Nguyen. We didn't talk about home. We talked about his upcoming essay and a book he liked. He ate slowly, but finished the sandwich. I told him that after the day ended, either CPS or his aunt would pick him up from the main office, not the curb, and that a staff member would stay with him until that moment. He nodded. "Will I have to go back tonight?" he asked. I told him I didn't know yet, but adults were working to keep him safe. Between periods, I sent a brief message to Alex. I'd be late. He replied quickly, "Do what you need. I'll handle the kids' pickup." I felt the usual pull between home and school, but there was no conflict in this decision. Safety first. I kept my tone even for the rest of my classes, but I adjusted my plan so I could check in with counseling at each break. When a student asked where our quiet classmate was, I said he was with support staff today and would return when ready. No details, no rumors. In the afternoon, CPS called back. An investigator was en route and wanted to meet with the principal, Ms. Nguyen, and me. They also reached the aunt, who agreed to come to school. Ms. Duarte reserved a small conference room near the main office. She reminded us to keep communication narrow and documented. She also informed security in case the father appeared without authorization. The instruction was clear. If he came, direct him to the principal's office and call her immediately. Before the final bell, I visited the student one more time. I told him the plan. An investigator would speak with him with Ms. Nguyen present. His aunt was on her way. I would be nearby if he wanted me in the room. He looked at me for the first time in a full minute and said, "Can you stay at the start?" I said yes. The bell rang. The hallway filled. I walked him through a side corridor to avoid the rush. In the conference room, I kept my seat beside him and let the investigator lead. My role was quiet and steady. Answer what I knew, correct nothing unless asked, and keep the focus on his comfort and clarity. When they finished, the aunt signed in at the main office and came to the room. She sat close to him and held his hand. He leaned toward her. The investigator outlined next steps and temporary arrangements. I wrote the time and the names in my notes. When he stood to leave with his aunt, I told him I would see him tomorrow if that felt safe, or later in the week if he needed time. I pointed to the counseling office on the way out and said he could come there first before class. He gave a small nod. It was enough. I cleaned my whiteboard after school and filed my notes with the counselor and principal. The desks were in rows, and the room was quiet. It looked like a regular day, but it was not. It was a day that asked for care, documentation, and follow-through, and tomorrow would ask for the same. The next morning, I arrived early and checked my inbox. There was a note from the principal summarizing yesterday's steps and confirming a safety plan for the week. Limited transitions, counselor check-ins each period, and office pickup only. I printed a copy for my folder. I also emailed his teachers a single sentence. He is under temporary support. Please provide extensions as needed. No details, no speculation. He came in before the first bell with his aunt. They signed in at the office and walked to counseling. I stopped by with a simple greeting and a question he could answer with one word. Reading today or quiet seat? He chose reading. I told him I would bring a copy of the text to counseling so he could start there and join us when he felt ready. First period began. I kept my tone steady and my plan tight. A short warm-up, a focused discussion, and a 10-minute writing segment. At the half, I stepped into the hallway and called counseling for a quick update. He was calm. He had asked to try class second period. I told them I would adjust the seating chart to give him a quiet corner near the door. Second period, he slipped in after most students were seated. I gave him a nod and placed the text on his desk with a sticky note marking today's passage. No public attention, no questions. He tracked the page, and when I called for pair work, I grouped him with the most patient classmate in the room. They worked silently. At the end, I asked if he wanted to walk back to counseling or stay for the next class. He chose to stay. During lunch, the principal briefed us. CPS had set a follow-up meeting for the afternoon with the aunt present. The father had tried to call the main office the night before. The call was redirected to the principal, who told him all communication must go through her. She also alerted security to maintain the sign-in protocol. If he appeared, he would be directed to her office, and we would keep the student away from the front entrance. In third period, a rumor tried to grow. 2 students whispered about the bruises. I stepped closer and asked them to focus on the text. After class, I called them to my desk and said this was not a topic for speculation. If they had concerns about a classmate, they should bring them to me or a counselor. They nodded and left. I sent a quick heads up to Ms. Nguyen so she could keep an ear out in the cafeteria. Near dismissal, the father arrived at school without an appointment. Security guided him to the principal's office and notified Ms. Duarte. She messaged me to remain in my room until cleared. I closed my door, continued helping students with their drafts, and avoided the hallway. 10 minutes later, Ms. Duarte called. The father had been loud but contained. She scheduled a formal meeting for another day with CPS present. He left with a warning about the sign-in rules. After the bell, I escorted my student to counseling. His aunt was already there. CPS joined by phone and confirmed temporary arrangements. He would stay with the aunt while they completed their assessment. The aunt asked what she could do for school. I gave her the week's reading list and told her we would pace the work to match his energy. She thanked us and asked if he could check in with me first thing each morning for the next few days. I said yes. On my way out, I updated my notes. Father appeared. Principal intervened. Student remained with supports. No contact between father and student at school. I added the time and the names present. Ms. Nguyen filed the documentation. We agreed on the same plan for tomorrow. At home, I told Alex I might need to be late again this week. He handed me a mug and said he would handle dinner and bedtime. I sat at the table and read through student drafts. When our kids ran in with a drawing from school, I put the papers down and gave them my full attention. After they were asleep, Alex asked if I was all right. I said I was steady, but I was thinking about the ride home for a boy who did not know what the next day would bring. He said the obvious, which helped. The steps we took matter. They protect him now. I emailed the student a short message from my school account. Good work today. Tomorrow we'll start with the next passage. If you want, check in with me before first period. I kept it brief to avoid adding weight to his evening. The following morning, he was at my door before the bell. He asked if he could sit in the back for first period and then decide about the rest. I said yes. I gave him a printed schedule with checkboxes for each class and a note at the bottom. You control this page. We'll adjust. He held on to it like a plan, not like a pass. Mid-morning, the principal called a short staff briefing. She reminded everyone about confidentiality and directed questions to her or counseling. She clarified that any parent who arrived demanding answers would be routed to her office. She also made one thing plain. There would be no classroom debates about both sides. This was about safety and law. Throughout the day, I watched for small signs. His posture, the way he held a pencil, whether he flinched at sudden noise. When the fire alarm drill sounded, I moved to his row before the second beep and walked with him to the exit. Outside, I stood between him and the tiled wall, so he had a clear line of sight to open space. He breathed evenly and counted the steps back to the door. I logged the drill as uneventful for him and sent the note to Ms. Nguyen. That afternoon, CPS visited the school in person. They met with the aunt and the principal again and asked to see the nurse's log. I provided my notes and answered 2 follow-up questions. They thanked us and said they would update the plan within 48 hours. The aunt signed out with him, and they left through the side entrance to avoid the front lot. I returned to my room and looked at the next unit. I adjusted deadlines for the whole class so he wouldn't stand out. I also set up a rotating peer note sharing system so anyone who missed a day could catch up without asking for favors. Small systems reduce noise. They help the student quietly rebuild a routine. Before leaving, I checked counseling one last time. Ms. Nguyen said he had asked if it was okay to join a club again next month. I told her I would walk him to the sign-up board when he was ready. It was a simple plan, but plans give shape to the week, and shape gives space for a student to feel like school is his place, not a checkpoint. By day 3, the hallway felt calmer, but not quiet. I met him at my door before the bell and asked the usual, counselor first or class first? He chose class. I offered the back corner again with a clear exit path. He sat, opened his notebook, and waited for directions. I gave the warm-up on the board and a simple anchor, 3 lines about the narrator's point of view. Predictable tasks lower the noise in the mind. He worked. Mid-period, a student blurted a joke about Fight Club. A few laughed. I stepped closer and said, "We do language here. If there's a concern, you bring it to me, not to each other." I held his gaze for a moment and then moved on. After class, I asked the student who made the comment to stay. I explained the line between curiosity and gossip, then assigned a reflection, how rumors harm safety. He nodded, embarrassed, and promised to keep his voice on the text, not on people. I logged the incident in brief and sent Ms. Nguyen a heads up. Second period, we had a short reading quiz. He finished early and kept his paper face down as instructed. When the bell rang, he asked in a low voice if he could make up last week's exit tickets later. I told him we'd convert them into a single, smaller task. 1 paragraph tying the passage to a theme. He exhaled, the kind of breath that says a weight shifted a few inches. Small wins matter. Before lunch, The principal emailed an update. CPS would finalize the temporary placement with the aunt for the next 2 weeks. A formal meeting with the father was scheduled for the following Monday, with CPS and district legal present. Until then, all contact would route through the principal's office. Security would double-check visitor logs. I printed the email and slipped it into my folder. At lunch, I chose a quiet table in the counseling suite. He joined us with Ms. Nguyen. We talked about the novel's next chapter. He asked a question about the narrator's brother. His voice was stronger than yesterday. When he made a small joke about my excessive sticky notes. "Do they breed in your drawer?" I smiled and said I only feed them after midnight. He laughed once. We left it there. Humor when the ground is stable. Focus when it isn't. In the afternoon, the aunt called the main office. She had a shift change and wanted to confirm pickup timing. The office patched her to Ms. Duarte, who coordinated a slightly earlier exit. We adjusted his schedule so he could complete the main work before then. I told him directly, "You won't fall behind in my class. We will pace this together." He nodded and underlined the next assignment in his planner. During last period, 2 students asked if they could share notes with him. I said yes and thanked them for doing it quietly. I also reminded the class that support is normal in our room. It isn't a spotlight. I handed out a checklist for the upcoming essay, with clear deadlines and an option to conference one-on-one. He signed up for a short conference the next morning. That was his idea. I wrote it down. 5 minutes before dismissal, the main office messaged that a man was in the parking lot asking to see his boy. Security moved him to the front desk while they notified the principal. My class was settling their papers. I kept the period moving as if nothing outside could tilt the room. When the bell rang, I walked my student to counseling by the side corridor. Ms. Nguyen met us there. The aunt arrived 2 minutes later, signed in, and waited in the small conference room. The principal called me. The man had refused to sign the visitor log and left when told CPS and district legal would be present at any future meeting. She filed an incident note and informed CPS by phone. I added a short line to my records. No contact. Office contained. Student unaware. After school, I held the one-on-one conferences I'd scheduled for other students, then walked back to counseling. He had finished the day's reading and started the paragraph for the makeup assignment. He asked if his sentences were too short. I told him short is fine when you need control. We can add detail in revision. He nodded and asked if he could keep the ice pack for the bus ride to his aunt's apartment. Ms. Nguyen arranged it and documented the release to the aunt at the office door. At home, I arrived late to a kitchen that smelled like pasta and basil. Alex had handled pickup, homework, and baths. I washed dishes and told him the plan for next week, the meeting, the safety measures, the class adjustments. He listened and asked if I needed him at school any day for our kids' schedules. We moved 3 things around. Parenting and teaching often share the same calendar. You plan, you adapt, you document. That night, I drafted tomorrow's mini lesson. I chose a passage that let him participate without speaking if he didn't want to, a quiet annotation task with a clear rubric. I emailed the aunt the outline so she could see what school would feel like for him the next day. I kept it short and practical. Before bed, I opened my notes to review the week. I checked for gaps. Nurse's log attached. Counselor check-ins recorded. Principal communication printed. CPS intake number noted. I added a final line. Student-initiated conference. Maintained focus. Responded to light humor appropriately. Used planner to track work. It wasn't poetry. It was the record of a student building a path back to feeling safe in a classroom. And tomorrow we would keep building. By the end of the week, he was arriving a few minutes early and checking the box on his schedule without prompting. We reviewed his paragraph at my desk before first period. He kept one palm on the paper, steady. In the margin, I wrote 2 specific notes. Add the date of the scene, name the street, and told him it was strong work. He nodded once. Then he asked if we could talk after class. I said yes, and let him choose the place. He chose counseling. When the bell rang for transition, we walked the side corridor. In the counseling office, he sat in the same chair as day 1. He looked at the floor tile and said his aunt had called his mother. His mother didn't live with them. He paused, and then he said there was someone else at home most nights. His little sister. She was 9. He said she tried to stay in her room when their father drank. He swallowed hard. He said the marks on his arm happened when he pulled her into the hallway to get her away. He hadn't mentioned her before because she was fine. He said it quickly, and then he said he wasn't sure. I kept my tone even. I thanked him for telling us. I told him we would add this to the report, so adults could make sure she was safe. I clarified that he had done the right thing. I asked one careful question. Are there any injuries on your sister now that you know about? He said he hadn't seen any yesterday, but she cried when the front door opened. Ms. Nguyen joined us and took over the questions. I wrote exactly what he said. No paraphrases. We called the principal. Ms. Duarte arrived within minutes and contacted CPS while she was still in the doorway. I stayed with him and explained what would happen. The agency would add his sister to the intake and coordinate a welfare check. We would not call the father. All contact would go through CPS and the principal. He rubbed the edge of the chair with his thumb and asked if he had gotten anyone in trouble. I told him we were acting to protect a child. That is not getting someone in trouble. That is the law and our duty. CPS returned the call quickly. They opened a linked report for the sibling and arranged a same-day visit to the home with local law enforcement. They asked for any recent contact attempts from the father. Ms. Duarte relayed yesterday's office log and the parking lot incident. She set a time for a later meeting with the investigator and the aunt. We gave the student a short break in the wellness room next door. Lights low, door open, a quiet adult present. By late morning, rumors pressed at the edges again. A student asked if I had heard about what happened. I said the same line I had used all week. We focus on our work. If there's a safety concern, bring it to an adult. In pair work, I placed him with the same steady classmate. They reviewed topic sentences. I circulated, took notes on everyone's progress, and kept the room on the page. At lunch, the aunt arrived for a quick check-in. She looked tired, but clear. We met in the small conference room. I explained the new information about his sister and the steps CPS was taking. She pressed her hand to her mouth and then asked how to help him with school tonight. I gave her a simple plan: read 10 pages, write 3 sentences, rest. She thanked us and asked if she could speak to the investigator later. Ms. Duarte set the call. In the afternoon, the father called the main line again. The office routed him to the principal. He demanded to see his boy and said he would come after work. Ms. Duarte repeated the rule. All meetings are scheduled. CPS and district legal must attend. He is not permitted to remove the student from school. She documented the call and notified security. She also alerted me to avoid the front hall at dismissal. 10 minutes before the last bell, the counselor pinged me. CPS had completed a welfare check at the home. The report to us was brief. Law enforcement had been present. The sister was physically safe at the time of the visit, and CPS would interview her with a specialist later that day. Temporary arrangements for the evening would be with a relative pending further assessment. The counselor asked if I could stay after school for a short debrief with the student and his aunt. I said yes, and reshuffled 2 conferences. The bell rang. I walked him down the side corridor again. In counseling, Ms. Nguyen summarized the update in simple language. He stared at the tabletop and asked if his sister could stay with the aunt too. Ms. Nguyen explained that CPS was working on a plan and would keep him informed through his aunt and the principal. He nodded but didn't move. I told him what we would do next in class. Small tasks, clear steps, no penalties for missing a day while we adjusted. He said, "Okay," and finally lifted his eyes. A few minutes later, security radioed the principal. The father had entered the parking lot and was walking toward the front doors. Ms. Duarte stepped to the lobby with a staff member and asked him to stop at the desk. He refused to sign in. She told him the meeting would be scheduled for Monday with CPS present. He could not see the student today. He raised his voice. Security stood between him and the hallway. She called the district liaison and local police as a precaution. He left after the call was placed, still shouting in the lot. The principal filed an incident report and added him to the no unescorted entry list. I documented the time and the names she relayed to me. Before release, the aunt signed the office log. We walked the student to the side exit used all week. The principal met us there and confirmed the plan for tomorrow. Counseling check-in first. Classes tolerated. An afternoon call with CPS to update placement for the sister. The aunt thanked everyone. The student said nothing, but he stayed close to her side and kept his folder tucked under his arm. Back in my classroom, I cleaned the board and stacked the quizzes. I updated my notes. Disclosure of sibling, CPS notified, welfare check completed, father attempted entry, contained by administration and security, student released to aunt. I printed the summary for the confidential file. Then I adjusted next week's lesson sequence so that each day started with one firm, finishable task. Students heal better when the day has shape. On my way out, I stopped at the principal's office. Ms. Duarte was on the phone with CPS, confirming Monday's meeting time and the requirement that all school contact with the father remain routed through her. She looked up and said, "Thank you for holding the line in your room." I said the same back to her. In a school, protection is a chain. Each link has to hold. Monday started with a short list on my desk. Copy passages, email families about the essay schedule, check on seating for fire drills near the back door. I added one more line, meeting at 2 o'clock. CPS, district legal, the principal, the counselor, the aunt, the father, and me. I reread the week's notes and clipped them together. Before first period, he came to my door with the same quiet knock. I asked, "Counselor first or class first?" He chose class. I gave him a calm task. Annotate 5 lines. Pick one to discuss later. Or just turn in notes if he didn't want to speak. He started immediately. During discussion, he raised his hand once, pointed to a sentence and said, "The narrator names what others avoid." He ended there. It was enough. I wrote a small check mark in my gradebook and moved on. At lunch, the principal stopped by. She explained the plan for the meeting. CPS would lead. District legal would outline school boundaries. We would keep the student away from the front office. Security would stand by in the lobby. If the father raised his voice, we would pause. If he refused the rules, the meeting would end and be moved to another venue. My job was simple: present facts, not conclusions, and step out if the student preferred it. I said yes to all of it. 2 o'clock. We met in the conference room near the main office. The blinds were open. Everyone signed in. The father arrived last, breathing hard, speaking fast about rights and rumors. The investigator began with the process. He explained mandated reporting, the purpose of the meeting, and the next steps. He said we would avoid names of students in open hallways and would talk one person at a time. The father crossed his arms and stared at the table. I gave my account in less than 2 minutes. What I observed, what the student said, what the nurse documented, and the steps we took. I did not add adjectives. Ms. Nguyen confirmed the counseling notes. The nurse's log was in the file. The principal summarized the visitor incidents and calls. District legal repeated the school's rules for entry, contact, and pickup. The father interrupted twice. The investigator reminded him to wait for his turn. Then came the part that mattered most. The student had asked to be present for the first minutes with me in the room. He walked in with his aunt and sat 2 seats from me. He kept both hands flat on the table. The investigator asked if he wanted to speak. He said yes. He described the bruises in simple language and said he was tired of pretending it was nothing. He looked at the investigator, not at his father. He mentioned his sister. He said he had pulled her into the hallway when the front door opened. He spoke for less than a minute. The investigator thanked him and asked if he wanted to stay or step out. He chose to step out with the counselor. I stood when he stood. He looked at me and said, "Can you come later?" I said yes. When the door closed, CPS outlined the interim plan. The student would remain with the aunt under a safety plan while the assessment continued. The sister would stay with a relative approved by CPS. School contact with the father would occur only in scheduled meetings with CPS and district legal present. No unaccompanied entry to the building. No contact with the student on school grounds. The father objected and said the boy was exaggerating. District legal repeated that this was not a debate, it was a safety process. The investigator documented the objection and moved to next steps. Referrals for services, a substance use evaluation for the father, and supervised visits pending court review. The aunt agreed to support transportation and communication with the school. The meeting ended with signatures on the safety plan. Security escorted the father to the lobby. He started to raise his voice again, saw 2 uniformed officers by the door, requested by CPS as a precaution, and left without further incident. The principal exhaled and straightened the stack of forms on the table. "Ground rules are simple," she said. "We follow the plan. We speak one at a time, and we keep the student's safety first." The conference room felt smaller with everyone inside. Ms. Duarte at the head, the CPS investigator, the district attorney assigned to schools, Ms. Nguyen, the aunt, and me. Security waited in the hallway. The recorder's red light blinked. The door stayed open by policy. The father signed in under supervision and took the chair farthest from the student. He looked at me first, then at the principal. The district attorney outlined the agenda. CPS would summarize the case, the nurse's notes and my observations would be entered into the record, and the placement plan would be reviewed. "This is not a debate about past discipline," she said. "This is a safety meeting." CPS spoke in clear steps. Visible injuries documented by the nurse. My objective notes. Counseling support. Prior evening welfare check for the younger sister. Temporary kinship placement with the aunt pending court review. A supervised interview scheduled for the sister later today. A no unsupervised contact condition for the father until the investigation concludes. The father leaned forward. "You can't keep my son from me. He belongs at home." The district attorney held his gaze. "Sir, the placement is lawful and temporary. All school contact will go through the principal. You may not remove him from campus." Ms. Duarte added, "You also may not appear on campus without an appointment. That includes waiting in the parking lot." I read my statement when asked. What I saw, what the student said, what the nurse documented, and the timeline of supports. No adjectives, no speculations. The father started to interrupt. The attorney raised a hand. "Let her finish." I did, then slid copies to CPS and the principal. The aunt spoke next. Her voice shook, but her words were precise. She would keep both children with her if permitted. She had space, a consistent schedule, and a neighbor who could help with after-school care. CPS confirmed that the arrangement would continue through the week and asked the father to provide emergency contacts who were not in the home. He said nothing. The attorney noted his silence for the record. Ms. Nguyen reviewed the school plan, check-ins each period, adjusted deadlines, private pickup, and a single point of contact for communication. She also requested consent for school-based therapy. The aunt signed. The father crossed his arms. The attorney reminded him that services support a return to learning and do not determine legal findings. When it was the student's turn, he kept his eyes on the table. He said he wanted to stay with his aunt for now and wanted his sister to be safe. CPS recorded his statement in full. The father's jaw tightened. He stood. Security stepped to the doorway. The principal kept her tone even. "Sir, remain seated." He sat. The district attorney issued the campus letter. No trespass without appointment. All visits scheduled through the principal. Violations referred to law enforcement. She read it aloud and handed him a copy. He signed receipt. The room eased by a degree. We ended with clear next steps. CPS would file the court paperwork for temporary placement and continue the assessment. The principal would be the sole contact for the father. The aunt would coordinate appointments. I would serve as classroom lead for academic adjustments. We each repeated our role once for clarity. No one raised their voice. The meeting adjourned. Outside, the hallway noise returned. Lockers, shoes, the bell. I walked the student and his aunt to the counseling suite. He asked if he could go to class for the last 20 minutes. Ms. Nguyen looked at me. I said yes, if he wanted a quiet task. He nodded. In my room, I set a short annotation on the board. He took the back corner. 2 students who had been steady all week slid their notes to the spare desk near him. No spotlight, no comments. I moved through the rows and paused by his chair. "Same passage," I said softly, tapping the margin. He underlined a line and wrote 3 words in the side. It was enough for today. After the bell, I checked with counseling again. The aunt had a CPS folder under her arm and a list of times for the next 2 days. She asked what he should read tonight. 10 pages, I said. 3 sentences. Sleep. She smiled for the first time since I'd met her. Back at my desk, I updated my file. Meeting held. No trespass letter issued. Kinship placement confirmed. School plan continued. Consent for services signed. I emailed the team a 1-line summary and attached the notes. Then I reset the room. Desk straight. Warm up on the board. Tomorrow's plan printed for him with checkboxes and a line at the bottom. You choose the pace. At home, I told Alex the meeting was calm and firm. He checked our calendar and shifted pickup again. We ate with our kids, and later, when the house was quiet, I opened tomorrow's lesson and made one more adjustment. Partner choices pre-assigned, a conference slot saved for him, and a club sign-up sheet paperclipped to his planner. Not big things, just steady ones. In the morning, he was at my door 2 minutes early. He held the planner and pointed to the club list. "Can we check this later?" he asked. "We can," I said. "After you finish your paragraph." He smiled, quick and small, like a test of a new muscle. We moved into the day. On Friday, he met me at the door with his planner open. 3 boxes were checked. "Club board after last period?" he asked. "Deal," I said. We kept the day simple. A warm-up he could finish in 5 minutes, a quiet annotation, and a short conference at my desk. He added 2 dates to his paragraph and underlined his topic sentence. Clear steps, steady work. At lunch, CPS called the principal. The temporary placement with the aunt would continue through the review. The sister was with a relative and would have a child interview next week. The no trespass without appointment stayed in effect. I wrote each point in my file and returned to class. After last period, we walked to the club board by the counseling suite. He read the list twice and pointed to the one that meets on Wednesdays. "You can try it and change later," I said. He printed his name carefully. Ms. Nguyen passed by and gave him a quiet thumbs up. He looked at the floor and smiled. Before he left, we set Monday. Counseling check-in first, then class, then a short conference to plan the week. I told him we would keep the box system until he didn't need it. He folded the planner and put it in his backpack with care. The aunt signed him out in the office. She thanked the principal and asked me for the weekend reading. 10 pages, I said. 3 sentences, rest. She nodded and said they would cook something simple at home. In my room, I filed the week's notes. Injuries documented, reports made, safety plan in place, placement confirmed, sister included, father restricted, student working with support. No drama on the page, just steps that hold. I turned off the lights, locked the door, and stood in the hallway for a moment. Monday would bring new tasks, new boxes to check, and the same rule I carry into every day. Protect, teach, and keep the path clear.